5,000 days?
Hmm.
It sounds like a decent stretch of time when you say it out loud, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like you have plenty of runway. But when you actually do the math, when you look at the calendar, it's a blink
It is. We are talking about roughly 13.7 years
from right now.
from right now. That is the countdown clock, ticking above all our heads, counting us down to the late 2030s.
And we should be clear, this isn't some arbitrary date we're just picking out of thin
Yeah,
air.
absolutely not. This isn't Y2K Tanic.
Right.
This countdown marks a very specific window. It's the time we have left before we fully transition into a reality that human beings have never, ever experienced before.
We're standing on the absolute precipice of what the source for this deep dive calls the end of work as we know it.
And that's such a heavy phrase, isn't it? The end of work.
It is. It sounds like the tagline for a dystopian sci-fi movie. Or, I don't know, maybe a utopian fantasy, depending on how much you hate your commute.
All right, one or the other. But what we're unpacking today suggests it really isn't fiction. It's not just about computers getting faster or Moore's Law doing its thing.
Or robots flipping burgers at a fast food joint. It's bigger than that.
So much bigger. We're talking about a genuine existential shift where artificial intelligence and robotics are going to redefine the very fabric of human existence.
And I think that's why it's so important to establish the stakes right up front. For you, the listener, if you're tuning into this, you need to understand something really crucial about your position in the world right now.
Yes, you are, whether you know it or not, part of the 1%.
Yeah.
The 1% who actually sees the tsunami coming.
Yeah, let's just sit with that for a second. Most people are just going about their days. They're worrying about interest rates, the next election cycle, or, what's trending on Netflix.
Normal life.
Normal life, but by engaging with the material we're covering today, you are doing something profoundly different. You're gathering the maps while everyone else is still arguing about the weather.
And that is precisely why we frame this entire conversation as a leadership discussion. Because while 99% of the world is unaware or maybe willfully ignorant,
I think that's a big part of it.
it is. You are positioning yourself to help others adjust. Because the mission here isn't just to survive the next 5,000 days. It is to navigate this transition from a world of scarcity to what we're calling the age of abundance without losing our humanity in the process.
And to help us navigate this, we're turning to a source that I honestly think is doing work that no one else is doing. We are diving into the Read Multiplex series by Brian Roemmel.
Roemmel's work here is heroic, and I really don't use that word lightly. It is so unique because he isn't just throwing tech specs or Python scripts or stock tips at us.
No, it's not a technical manual.
Not at all. He is framing this entire AI revolution through the lens of mythology, psychology, and classic literature. He's giving us a soul-level understanding of what is coming our way.
Which is exactly what we need, because the tech specs change every single week. The psychology, the human condition, that stays the same.
That's the constant.
So here's our roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to quickly synthesize the foundations of Roemmel's thesis, what he laid out in part 1 and part 2 of his series. That's about abundance and the psychology of grief.
Right, the groundwork.
But then we're going to spend the bulk of our time on the prophetic blueprint he lays out in part 3.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. It centers on a book from 1952 that somehow, almost impossibly, predicted our exact moment. Kurt Vonnegut's Player Piano.
It is going to be a fascinating ride, so let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack that foundation first. Part 1 of the Read Multiplex series. It sets the stage with a truly massive paradigm shift. And the core thesis is that traditional labor, it's fading from an obligation into an option.
This is the concept he calls boundless abundance. And you have to understand, we have spent our entire history as a species defined by the struggle for survival.
Hunting, farming, working 9 to 5 to put food on the table.
Exactly. Our entire social structure, even our surnames, Miller, Smith, Baker, Cooper, they are all tied to labor, to what we did,
To our function.
to our function in the tribe. But we are moving and moving very quickly toward a world where the necessity of that survival labor decreases dramatically.
Which, on paper, that sounds like paradise. Who doesn't want to quit their job and relax on a beach somewhere? But Roemmel points out that the psychological weight of that change is actually incredibly heavy.
It's immense, because if you take away the struggle, do you also accidentally take away the meaning?
Right. It creates a vacuum of purpose.
It does. And that is why Roemmel so brilliantly uses the hero's journey narrative structure to explain it. The Joseph Campbell monomyth.
The classic story structure.
The one story that's been told 1,000 times. He says, humanity, all of us collectively, We are leaving the ordinary world. We are being called to adventure whether we like it or not.
We're stepping across the threshold into the unknown. We're being pushed out of the nest.
We are. We are entering a phase of profound disruption, deep introspection, and hopefully potential rebirth. But it's not guaranteed.
And it poses this massive, honestly scary question. What happens to our sense of purpose when machines take the wheel?
That's the question.
If an AI can write better code, paint better art, diagnose diseases more accurately than any human doctor, what are we for?
What is our utility? And that question, that chilling question, leads us directly into the emotional territory Rommel explored in part 2, which I just found deeply, deeply moving.
Oh, too.
He argues that this transition isn't just an economic shift. It's not about spreadsheets and GDP. It is a form of bereavement. We are grieving the death of career, as we've always understood it.
This is where it gets really interesting for me because he brings in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross.
Right.
Now, most people, they know her for the 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. But I did not realize her backstory was so directly relevant to this whole conversation.
Oh, it's essential context. Kubler-Ross was born a triplet in Zurich in 1926. She spent her entire life defying patriarchal constraints, being told what she couldn't do.
And her early work.
Her early work was in post-World War II refugee camps. She was surrounded by absolute devastation, the ruins of a continent. And she went on to revolutionize how we treat the dying because she was never afraid to look directly into the shadows.
She understood that grief is a process. It's not a switch you just flip.
It's a journey. And she was dealing with physical death, with the ruins of a war-torn world. We are dealing with the death of an identity and the ruins of the industrial labor model.
And Rommel maps those famous 5 stages directly onto the AI revolution. I think we should walk through them because I have a feeling that you, the listener, you're going to recognize yourself or your colleagues in some of these.
Almost certainly.
So first up, denial.
Denial is what you see and hear every single day when workers minimize the hype. You hear it all the time. Oh, LLMs hallucinate too much. A computer can never do my job. It lacks the human touch, the creativity.
It's the stochastic parrot argument used as a security blanket.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's a defense mechanism. It protects the ego from the terrifying reality of obsolescence. Because if I admit the machine is capable, then I have to admit that I am vulnerable.
And when that defense mechanism starts to crack, what comes next is anger.
Right. And we have so many historical parallels for this. You could think of the 1980s auto workers literally smashing robots on the assembly line with sledgehammers.
Or the Luddites.
Or the Luddites in the 19th century destroying the stocking frames they thought were taking their jobs. It is rage against the machine. It's rage against the tech firms. How dare they take this away from me? How dare Sam Altman or Google or whoever release this into the world?
It's a very human reaction. So after the anger, there's bargaining. And this one feels very, very current to me. I see this on LinkedIn every single day.
It is the moment we're in right now. It is the frantic upskilling. It's the person saying, okay, if I just learn this new coding language or if I just become a prompt engineering genius, I'll be safe, I'll be valuable.
It's the search for a safe harbor.
It is. But Rommel makes this incredible analogy. He says it's like the lamplighters in the 1920s frantically training to learn how to maintain the new electric lights.
Wow.
It is a futile attempt to negotiate with a tidal wave.
Yeah.
You are trying to find a little niche that the water won't reach, but the water is rising everywhere.
That's a tough pill to swallow. And I imagine for a lot of people, when that realization hits, that's when we hit the next stage, depression.
And the data on this is just heartbreaking. Unemployment studies consistently show that around 40% of people exhibit clinical symptoms of depression when they lose their role in society.
40%.
It's a massive number. It is the deep erosion of self-worth. It's asking, if I don't produce, who am I? In a capitalist society, your value is your output. When your output goes to zero, your self-worth just crashes.
It's an identity crisis on a global scale. But there's a 5th stage. There's acceptance.
This is the goal. This is the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the pivot to passion. This is where we can unlock a personal renaissance, a moment where you define yourself not by what you produce for a wage, but by what you create for meaning.
So you move from saying, I code for a living, to what?
To, I solve problems for humanity, or I explore the nature of consciousness, or even just, I cultivate beauty in my community. It's a fundamental shift in identity.
So for the listener, the person we're framing as the leader in this scenario, how do they manage this curve? For themselves and for others. You can't just walk up to someone in the anger stage and say, hey, get over it.
No, that would be a disaster.
Huh.
Remmel suggests some very specific change curve strategies. First, he talks about doing vulnerability audits.
What does that mean?
It means, actually, honestly, scoring your daily tasks on their automation risk, being brutal about it, asking, can an AI agent do this in 12 months, 24 months? If he answers yes, you need to start planning your pivot now.
Okay, that's practical. What else?
Then, abundance building. This means deliberately establishing passive income streams, diversifying so you are not reliant on a single paycheck from a single employer. It's about building your own lifeboat.
And crucially, he talks about communal support groups, places like the Reed Multiplex forums he runs.
Exactly. You cannot do this alone. Isolation is the enemy here. The goal is to process that grief together and transform it into what Campbell called the elixir of the return. You come back from the hero's journey with something that heals the community.
Which brings us perfectly to the main event of this deep dive. Part 3 of the series, this is where Remmel stops looking at psychological charts and starts looking at literature to illuminate the path ahead.
And this is such a brilliant, unique move. He focuses on Kurt Vonnegut's debut novel, Player Piano, which was published all the way back in 1952.
1952, I mean, that's over 70 years ago. This is before the internet, before personal computing, barely into the transistor age. It's mind-boggling.
And yet, it is perhaps the single most accurate prophecy of our next 5,000 days. And Vonnegut didn't just guess. He wasn't just a sci-fi writer making things up. He wrote this based on his real-world experience.
He worked for General Electric, right?
He was a public relations writer for GE in Schenectady, New York. He was right there in the belly of the beast. GE was the tech giant of its day.
The open AI of the 1950s.
In many ways, yes. And he was there when he saw the first computer-controlled milling machines. They were using these punched paper cards to operate heavy equipment for building jet engines. And he had this massive aha moment.
He saw the future.
He saw the whole trajectory. He realized that even in 1952, it was already clear machines wouldn't just replicate human labor. Eventually, they would surpass it. He saw the line on the graph and just extended it out 70 years.
So he writes Player Piano. It's set in this fictional city called Ilium, New York, which is basically his stand-in for Schenectady. But it's a post-World War III world.
The war accelerated technology, as wars always do. And the result is a society that has been completely and utterly bifurcated. Picture a city physically divided by a river.
Okay.
On one side of the river, you have the managers and the engineers, the new elite. They run the machines. They have the PhDs, the status, the nice houses. They are the prompt engineers and the AI researchers of their day.
And on the other side of the river.
On the other side, you have Homestead. This is a drab, sprawling suburb for the displaced masses. And the term used for them is just brutal. They are called the reeks and wrecks.
The reeks and wrecks. That is just,
Right,
it's visceral. It strips them of all dignity.
Completely. And these people, they subsist on government stipends. They have food. They have shelter. Technically, you could say they have abundance. They aren't starving.
Right.
But they live in soul-crushing uniformity and boredom. They have no purpose. They are fed, but they are not needed.
And that distinction, being fed versus being needed, that feels like the absolute heart of the conflict.
It is.
It's the UBI nightmare scenario, isn't it? The fear that will just keep people alive to consume, but not to contribute. Let's dig into the characters, because Remmel argues they are perfect archetypes for us today. First, we have the protagonist, Dr. Paul Proteus.
Paul is our awakening leader. He is a 35-year-old, privileged, brilliant engineer. He's the manager of the Ilium Works. He is intelligent. He's well compensated. He's living the dream on the good side of the river.
He's a winner in this new system.
He is. But he's suffering from this internal rot, this creeping sense of unease.
He represents the listener before they take action, right? He's part of the system. Maybe he's working at a big tech firm or a consultancy, but he can smell the smoke. He knows something is deeply wrong with the algorithm.
That's it, exactly. His journey is the transition from being a willing cog in the machine to becoming a very reluctant revolutionary. He starts to see that the system he helps run, the system that gives him everything, is fundamentally inhuman. He realizes that efficiency has become a god, and humans are just fuel for it.
And then you have the catalysts who push him. Ed Finnerty and Reverend Lasher.
Finnerty is this fantastic character. He's the eccentric genius, Paul's old friend, who holds an even higher position than Paul. And one day, he just quits. walks away from his high-status job in total disgust.
He just checks out of the system.
Completely. And he teams up with Reverend Lasher, who is an anthropologist and a minister. Lasher is the intellectual and spiritual force behind the resistance movement, which they call the Ghost Shirt Society.
Oh, Ghost Shirt Society. That's a very specific historical reference, isn't it? That's not just some cool name Vonnegut made up.
It is deeply, deeply significant, and frankly, it's heartbreaking. It's named after the Native American ghost dance movement of the late 19th century.
The Lakota Sioux.
The Lakota Sioux and other tribes, yeah.
Yeah.
They believed that if they wore these sacred ghost shirts and performed the dance, the shirts would become bulletproof against the white settlers' guns. They believed the buffalo would return, and their whole way of life would be restored.
It was a spiritual movement against cultural erasure. A last, desperate hope that magic could stop technology.
Exactly. It was a desperate attempt to reclaim a way of life that was being systemically wiped out by a technologically superior force. Vonnegut uses that imagery to show that the displaced humans in Player Piano feel just as threatened by the machines as the Native Americans did by the settlers.
They feel they're being colonized by their own creations.
Yes, it's a perfect way to put it.
Wow. That adds such a layer of tragedy to the whole thing. It's not just about losing jobs. It's about the extinction of a culture, of a way of being human. But not everyone in the book is a revolutionary. We have to talk about Anita.
Ah, Anita, Paul's wife. She is, arguably, the most dangerous archetype for you, the listener, to avoid becoming.
Why do you say that? She sounds like she's just trying to get by to succeed in the world she lives in.
Because Anita embodies the total, gripping fear of losing relevance. She married Paul for his station, for his upward trajectory. She scorns the reeks and wrecks in Homestead with every fiber of her being. She is terrified of slipping down the ladder.
She's the person who is more concerned with the title on their business card than the actual reality of the market.
That's it. So she represents the denial and bargaining stages of grief we talked about earlier. She's the one playing corporate politics on the Titanic.
She's clinging to the old metrics of success.
Promotions, corporate retreats at this exclusive place called The Meadows, her husband's next big project. She clings to all of it, even as the world is fundamentally changing underneath her feet. She refuses to see that the ladder she is so desperately climbing is leaning against a burning building.
And Romella's warning is, do not be Anita.
Do not be Anita. Do
Yeah.
not tie your entire identity to a system that is in the process of collapsing.
And then there's one more character I love, the Shah of Bratpur. He's this dignitary, this foreign leader who is touring America and looking at this technological utopia from the outside.
The outsider archetype. It's crucial for satire because he sees things the insiders can't. The Shah looks at this perfect American society where machines do everything, and he asks a very simple, very naive question about the citizens in Homestead.
The reeks and wrecks.
He looks at these people living on stipends, with nothing to do, and he uses a word from his own language to describe them. He calls them takaru,
Which means?
slaves.
Wow. Even though they are technically free citizens in a democracy.
It's the central paradox of the book. It is a technological utopia that looks exactly like slavery to an outsider because it has stripped away human agency. The machines are the masters and the humans are just existing. They're cared for like pets.
If you have no agency, no utility, no purpose, are you truly free, or are you just a well-fed house cat?
That's the question Vonnegut forces us to ask.
So we have this powder keg, you have the insulated elite managing the machines, you have the masses rotting with purpose in Homestead, and you have the Ghost Shirt Society plotting a revolution. Eventually, it has to blow up.
And it does. The climax is incredibly telling. Paul is put on a public trial, which is broadcast nationwide, for his sympathies with the rebellion. This trial is the spark.
It ignites the masses.
The people in Homestead have finally, collectively, hit the anger stage of grief. They rise up, they pour across the river, they rush the factories.
And they smash the machines. It's the ultimate catharsis. Burn it all down, destroy the servers, smash the robots, break the algorithms.
But, and this is the single most important part of this deep dive, the part Rumble highlights, this is where the brutal twist happens. The irony is just devastating.
What happens after the riots?
The riots end. The factories are in ruins. The silence falls over Ilium. And almost immediately, the survivors, including Paul and Finnerty, the leaders of the rebellion, what do you think they do?
I don't know. Celebrate.
They find a broken machine, and they start to fix it.
Wait, what? They repair the very thing they just risked their lives to destroy. Why?
Because they're human. Because someone is thirsty, and the machine purifies water faster than they can. Or someone is cold, and the machine makes heat. Or someone just wants a toasted sandwich. Vonnegut's message is harsh, but it's true. We have an ironic, unbreakable dependence on our technology.
We can't simply smash our way out of the age of AI.
We can't. We love the convenience too much. We are not going to go back to washing our clothes by hand in the river. It's not going to happen.
So the lesson from Play Your Piano isn't destroy the robots. It's not a Luddite manifesto at all.
Not in the slightest. Vonnegut's warning is that smashing the machine is not the answer. Redefining the purpose of the human is the answer. If you just smash the machine without a new vision for humanity, you'll just end up building the machine all over again because you don't know how to live without it.
The ghost shirt rebellion failed because it wanted to go backwards in time.
Exactly. And we have to go forwards.
This brings us right back to the next 5,000 days. We're looking at this fictional world from 1952, but the parallels to what Rommel discusses in his analysis of our future they're just startling.
They are chillingly accurate. I mean, think about it. In the book, there were these giant machines that sort people by IQ tests to decide their jobs for them.
And today, we have black box AI hiring tools. We have predictive policing algorithms. We have CV screening software that rejects 95% of candidates before a human being ever sees their name.
We are seeing efficiency trumping empathy at every turn. We are optimizing for metrics, not for people.
And the data is already bearing this out. The Brookings Institution released a report just last year, in 2023, noting that AI is already measurably widening the wage gap.
Of course it is. High-skill workers who can leverage the tools, they thrive. They become the engineers from the book. Meanwhile, low-skill workers and now even mid-skill knowledge workers are being displaced. It is the beginning of the homestead versus engineer split happening in real time.
And there's an environmental parallel that Vonnegut saw too. In the book, the factories are polluting the river that divides the city.
Right. And today, we have to talk about the massive energy demands of AI. Training a single large model like GPT-4 consumes an amount of electricity equivalent to thousands of households for a year. The data centers require billions of gallons of water for cooling.
We are chasing this dream of boundless abundance, but we have to ask, at what cost to the planet? Vonnegut saw the industrial pollution. We're seeing the carbon footprint. It's the same problem, just a different flavor.
It's the same problem, which is why Rommel and Vonnegut ultimately land on the same essential question. It's the question that every single listener of this deep dive needs to sit with. Vonnegut asks in the book, how to love people who have no use.
Oof, no use.
That is the central challenge of the next 5,000 days. If the projections from places like McKinsey and the World Economic Forum are even remotely correct, and AI automates 80 to 90% of routine tasks, we are going to have billions of people who have no use in the traditional economic sense.
And we have to answer that question before the clock runs out. How do we structure a society where value or dignity isn't tied directly to your labor?
That's the test.
So let's pivot to the solution, to the leadership aspect. We promised the listener a way to navigate this. You are the leader. You have the map from Vonnegut. You know the danger of becoming Anita, the status seeker. And you know the absolute futility of just being the angry mob smashing the server racks.
So what do? Rommel's call to action is for you to be the ghost shirt that creates rather than destroys, to be the catalyst for a new way of living, not to wear the shirt to stop the bullets of the old world, but to wear it to signal the birth of a new culture.
Okay, but what does that look like practically? If I'm a leader listening to this, what do I do on Monday morning?
Well, first, it requires a profound shift in education. We need to stop obsessing over teaching every single person to code. The AI will code better than we can very soon. You look at tools like Devin or the latest GitHub Copilots. It's already happening.
So what do we teach instead?
We need to focus on ethics, creativity, critical thinking, philosophy. We need to teach people how to be more human, not how to be worse versions of a calculator. We need to teach prompt thinking, not just prompt engineering. It's about asking the right questions, not just learning the right syntax.
And what about on a policy level? On a societal level, we need safety nets.
Absolutely. We have to start exploring concepts like universal basic income or UBI. Seriously, not as a political football, but as a practical necessity. We need to prevent the despair of Homestead from becoming a global reality.
But there's a risk there, right? The book shows us that.
There is. If people have their basic needs met and they have access to resources for creation and education, they can flourish. But if they are just given a stipend and told to go away and consume content, they rot. The safety net has to be a trampoline, not a hammock.
And finally, the third piece, community.
This is maybe the most important part. We have to reclaim agency together. Makerspaces, AI-assisted art collaboratives, local community projects, philosophical discussion groups. This is why Romallet emphasizes his Read Multiplex forum so much. It's a place to find your tribe, to find the other 1%.
We need spaces where we create with the machines, but for each other.
That's the vision.
It is about optimism, isn't it? Vonnegut's book ends on such a bleak, cynical note, with the characters just going back to fixing the machine because they have nothing else, no better ideas. But Rommel offers a different possible ending for our story.
He does. He genuinely believes that this upheaval, this end of work, can birth a creative explosion unlike anything in human history. We can use the abundance to liberate us rather than alienate us.
We can spend our time exploring the universe, creating art, caring for each other.
Things that machines can simulate but can't truly do. A machine can generate a poem that looks like Shakespeare, but it can't need to write a poem to process its grief or its joy. That need, that ache, is human. We can focus on that.
But it's a choice.
It is a choice we have to actively make. It will not happen by accident. The default path leads to Ilium, New York.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocation.
In a world of machines, what melody will you play?
That is the question, isn't it? The player piano, the title of the book, it plays music without a soul. It hits the notes perfectly, the timing is flawless, but there is no feeling behind it. It's just mechanics executing a program.
Don't be the player piano. Don't just execute tasks.
Hmm.
Compose something new. Find the dissonance, find the soul, find the beautiful, messy, human thing that the algorithm always optimizes out.
And if you are feeling the weight of this, if this conversation is resonating, remember, you are not alone. Join the mastermind, as he calls it, at Read Multiplex. We are all trying to figure this out together, debating these exact points, building that new culture.
We will not go it alone. This transition requires collective navigation. It's too big for any one of us.
Stay aware, stay curious, and get ready to ride the wave. We'll see you in the next deep dive.